So Blizzard, patch 2.0 for Warcraft 3 Reforged has had a few controversies since it's come out. Grubby's going to reflect upon whether it was good. Let's find out.
How good is the new Warcraft 3 2.0 patch? The patch has been out for 3 days now, so this is a video with me talking about my first thoughts and how the patch has landed with me and with the community at large. The secret is out. Warcraft 3 has had its second makeover on Wednesday the 13th of November 2024. And now 2.0 is out to the public. I shared a feature overview with you guys in my video The Rumors Were True on that day, and many of you have seen it and commented on it. Meanwhile, the community at large has had its time to absorb the new features and how it feels about them, as well as seeing what has not been changed, which hopes have been fulfilled, and where 2.0 may have fallen short for now. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing my first thoughts post-release now that I have a bit more clarity on the overall reception, as well as my own experience with playing the game in a live environment.
That's fair play. Let it settle, get an idea, enjoy the feedback from everyone, and then embark upon the journey of confirming that you hate it. We'll find out.
This is not a comprehensive review of Warcraft 3 2.0. This is going to be me sharing my initial thoughts and assess a kind of state of the game, if you will. I'll also be discussing the accuracy of advertising that Blizzard has been utilizing, and whether Blizzard made or is making true on their promises. Whether they could have done more, and whether our community's expectations have been reasonable and realistic. The company that used to be known for making and selling finished products in the early 2000s, such as with Warcraft 3 Reign of Chaos and Warcraft 3 The Frozen Throne, released a botched remake in 2020, January 28th, due to bad mismanagement, power struggles, internal underfunding, cost-cutting and firings, incompetency, greed, lack of foresight, and more. So in a surprising move, Blizzard has decided, with work presumably starting maybe years ago, they've decided to start allocating...
You trying to distract me already, are you, Fry? Grubby looking good with the blonde hair. Now that you said that, I can't unsee it.
Resources to repairing their reputation and repairing the semi-broken client of Warcraft 3 nearly 5 years after its Reforged release on January 28th in 2020. So Warcraft Reforged, that widely became known as Warcraft Refunded because they had a no questions refund policy, is now slated to finally become Warcraft Repaired. But will they hit that bullseye? How good is it? Let's first talk about the launch. Launch day, 13th November 2024, was a particularly rocky launch. There were a couple of problems. I personally didn't experience many, but many people did, and we should talk about it. There were people that had no access to their options. This has since been identified as being caused by illegal characters, or exotic characters, let's say. Users with exotic characters in their audio output, or...
That affected Neo from Back to Warcraft, I think.
Input devices were unable to access any part of the game options. Tough luck for those with Rode microphones. I was lucky to have an audio interface, which ended up being the name of my audio input device rather than my Rode pod mic that I have right here. So I was able to access options. It took some time for them to discover what the problem was, but they fixed it within a day. Secondly, there were people that could not access the game at all, which is terrible for the hype for those people, of course. They were being given some form of error message that meant that they couldn't authenticate their license of the game. Valid license access to Warcraft 3 has always been possible via either owning the original Warcraft 3 Reign of Chaos CD key and uploading it to your Battle.net account. That would give you access to the very same client that we're all playing on, but you would be blocked out from using the reforged graphics settings. Nonetheless, it is a valid license for playing the game, and they should have had access on launch day, but they didn't. Of course, you could also buy Reforged license key for $30, and many people do have that version, including me, and we could get into the game just fine, but this almost looked like Blizzard did it on purpose to force you to buy the Reforged game. This turned out not to be the case. They fixed this bug in a day as well, and next day people could already log in. But some people may have thought that they couldn't log in because Blizzard removed ROC license validity. We should talk about Mac users. Since about 40 to 45 days ago, Mac users have not been able to play Warcraft 3 at all.
Can you guys still play it? I still don't even know. I still keep seeing forum posts about Mac users saying it still doesn't work. And every time you get like a Blizzard post saying, we've now fixed Mac to work, and then you still, I don't know.
was acknowledged on the Battle.net launcher, but only at the Americas region. You would have a pop-up that said, "We know Mac users can't play, please stand by for a fix." But if you logged in via Europe or Asia, your Battle.net launcher wouldn't say anything about it at all. There were also one or two news acknowledgements somewhere on the Battle.net website/forums where Blizzard acknowledged they were working on a fix, which is nice to know that they were working on it, but I think 40 to 45 days is an unreasonably long time for a Mac user to be locked out of the game. While on the one hand you could say that this Mac user may have owned the game since 2002, and therefore in 22 years missing 45 days is not that big of a deal, but if someone bought the game 45 days ago, they would literally not have been able to play the game for 1.5 months, the entirety of their ownership of the game. And if anyone bought the game on release but has a Mac, they would also not have been able to play. Until present day, as far as I know, it's still not fixed. It's purported to be fixed soon, but it should be mentioned that it isn't. There's much to be said about quality of life features. My first thoughts and impressions, and I think everyone's is it's very positive. Overall, incredibly positive across the board. I've gone over nearly every feature at length in my breakdown video, though not everything. I missed a couple, and I'm very happy with all of them.
I think he's right. Overall, we're pretty satisfied with it, particularly the Melee group. Plus custom game enjoyers, although there will be those that say stuff doesn't work now in custom games, models are broken. For example, in Legion TD, it will show up instead of the actual profile status, the picture effectively of, say, for example, a rat. It will look like a tower now because the base template for that creature, the rat, was the tower in the map editor. So the only way to really fix that, I think, is for the editors to update their own maps and get around it that way. But of course, that's a lot of work. And then you got to consider the maps that won't be revisited because they were created so long ago. They're going to be a little bit busted and jank because of it. But it is what it is. I don't know how you can solve that problem. You can't. You've got to hurt a few things, haven't you? Break a few eggs to make an omelette.
I love using the new hero skins, all of which are available in Reforged and Classic HD graphic settings. Not all of them are usable in Classic SD. I hope we're getting more in the future. But whatever graphics settings that I'm using, I love it to transform some of my heroes. You can gender bend the Demon Hunter and the Death Knight.
I mean, that is a thing of beauty. I don't know why you wouldn't do that, to be honest, as a default. One thing, though, that we still don't have is in collections an ability to make it so you always get the unit or hero that you selected to be what it is. So the female demon hunter, if I want that, I tick it, but it's not necessarily a guarantee I'm going to get it. I'm eagerly anticipating when the altar builds my hero, the demon hunter, when they come out. I want to hear that sexy raspy voice. At the moment, I'm actually getting with the demon hunter. I don't know if it's actually still in the game because they've done a patch for it today. The demon hunter, if you had the female demon hunter, comes out as a male demon hunter, but has the female... No, it comes out as a female demon hunter with the male face, but the female voice. It's 2024, so maybe that was a Blizzard deliberate move. I don't know.
I prefer to play with the original versions, but there's also other cool skins like the Blackrock Blade Master, Karen the Tauren Chieftain, Thrall the Farseer, and so on and so forth. I wish to get more skins still. It's a lot of fun to play with all of these. The only quality of life feature that I feel like missed the mark a little bit is actually one that I vouched for myself 2 months ago. The insta-snap of Idle Worker was made into a double tap if you want to snap to it.
That's
and
sorted
if you
now.
Once you just select it. I really thought I was going to be able to enjoy it better without the insta-snap of the camera, but I've actually been missing it myself. It has felt very disconcerting because I have a lot of muscle memory around pressing the Idle Worker hotkey or clicking the icon and then expecting the camera to focus on it.
That was an annoying change, basically created by this World of Warcraft hardcore classic streamer called Grubby. So thankfully they've updated that and now it's a toggleable option, but I'm not sure who's going to really want that on.
I really thought I was going to like it more, the change, but not so much, and I've heard some other people complain about it as well. But the other quality of life features, really nice. Let's talk about the client look. In terms of look, I feel like the world is healing. The client is healing a lot. The new client feels more nostalgic, warmer, and more cozy. And the willingness to go back to a look that is more similar to the original in my opinion, shows a level of humility from Blizzard, a level of understanding that I didn't think Blizzard had in them anymore, that I didn't think they were going to be able to illustrate anymore. It shows a change in thinking and management in Blizzard. I didn't think Blizzard could break free of the arrogance that was so rife during the 2020 release. We can release the game in this state and get away with it. I'm not blaming individuals for it, or at least not the individuals that had nothing.
It's warm and cozy because Grubby's heart is so small and ice cold. So to him, that feels like a nice warm fireplace. But to the rest of us, do you remember, honestly, the original Warcraft 3? I love the look of the frozen throne and sort of like the feel of it. But after you played the game for X amount of years, every time you logged in, and this is going all the way back, people probably won't remember so much now, but you would log in and every time it'd be like, I'm not sure if that comes through properly, but it was this kind of icy feel, and it's like, oh, for God's sake, it's making me feel cold to play this game.
To do with it, it's a management thing, it's a corporate rot kind of thing, it's what happens to publicly traded companies when the marketing people take over, etc. But the Reforged release was very symbolic of that rot. And I think many of us gave up on Blizzard forever afterwards. I polled my community and expectations for the patch were really, really low. For whatever news was coming on the 13th of November, it was really, really low. But here we are, and there it is. And so I feel like there has been some healing going on. The chat experience of the Warcraft 3 client in multiplayer is much better than Battle.net 2.0, which basically had no chat activity at all. I think it can still improve in its looks, as right now you have one chat line per one user and it takes a lot of space up. You can only have 6 messages in the entire chat room, and that is in stark contrast to how the old Warcraft 3 chat was, where you could have dozens of messages on a single screen. I think multiple consecutive chat lines by one user can and should be grouped together. I think maybe there can be a bit of a squeezing of the total amount of space that you're...
I wouldn't mind a timestamp as well, but then that obviously takes more space, so if you could work that out.
Icon and name takes up. I think menu and interface interactions create too much spam messages, too much system messages that linger and clog up the chat, and therefore you can't see social chatting as much. Scrolling in chat history currently doesn't work very well because any new message that arrives in chat while you're scrolling up instantly resets and snaps you back to the bottom. Or is that what it does? No, it moves to where you're looking at. It basically remembers that you moved 200 units up. And so when you're looking at something at 200 units up and a new message comes, then you're suddenly looking at something that's 180 units.
Sounds like something they did with the forums. Yeah, if someone types just one message and then pulls you all the way back down, that's super annoying. But that's not exactly what's happening here.
Up from where you were originally panning. And so you can't focus on anything. You can't read anything. It doesn't pause. Additionally, I never appear in the chat room. When I go to a new chat room, I can type there and I can demonstrably chat there and my messages appear, but my name itself, Grubby, does not appear in the chat room at all. When I ask someone else to join, there's like a 30% chance that they appear in the chat room.
Stealth banned.
And a 70% chance that they also do not appear, just like me. It's weird. The old Battle.net system, it was pretty straightforward. There was a maximum user limit per channel. And when it was full, it was full. Then you had to make a new one. You would go to Cool Guys, and then it's full, 25 out of 25. You make a new channel, Cool Guys 2. Now other people go there.
There used to be like 49 German channels. It was crazy. DEU dash like 30 plus, and you'd still see people in those channels.
That's pretty much how we did it, but at least everybody...
In Britain, you only needed like one channel. Maybe 2 at best when it was at peak population.
Everybody that's in the channel is in the channel and you can see them. Channel names right now are not unique. So everyone logs in and will be on W3 General chat. But you won't be in communication with everyone else that's also in W3 General. You're in some kind of weird subdivision of W3 General with some invisible character code. And back in the days, you would have channels like Warcraft 3 UK1, Warcraft 3 UK2, etc. So you knew there's a paging system, you knew there's a unique channel identifier. So I think a lot of work needs to be done here to clean that up. That's my critique on that and my first expressions. But I am very happy with how it looks. I think it's a great step in the right direction.
Absolutely.
And if they keep working on it and improving it, I'm going to be enjoying this social system so much more than before. Part of the social system is also the ability to make clans, which was part of Legacy Warcraft 3, but not of Reforged Warcraft 3. This functionality is back. You become a chieftain of a clan when you make a clan, and then you can invite people and you can promote their role to shaman and something else. Those people that can then help invite new members, and I think the member limit is higher than it was in the past. All of this is super fun. I can make a channel that's revolving around the community of my stream and my YouTube channel, and then when we're playing Warcraft 3, we can hang out in the same channel together. This is awesome. But there's only one problem. Current ladder of the Battle.net Warcraft 3 system is global. So there are certain components to the multiplayer experience that are also global. However, clans are somehow region bound. On launch day, only America's server worked for a while and Europe didn't have any logins. So initially when I started playing with the launch stream, I started playing on North America.
Oh yeah.
I made a clan, the Grubsters, with abbreviation Grub, and I invited a bunch of people. Maybe we're about 20 strong. But then when I logged in on Europe, I couldn't make any clan, I couldn't join any clan, I couldn't even leave any clan. I wasn't in a clan. However, that's because it was blocking me out from being in a clan, because it still remembers that I'm in a clan on NA, but there's no display of that whatsoever when I'm on Europe.
Wow, that's a very specific problem. Yeah. When I played on the North America thing when it first came available, because the Europe wasn't working, I wasn't in a clan. I was like, why am I not in a clan? And it's just like, it suddenly clicked. It's because technically, yeah, I'm in the North American server. It's not like global. But when I went back, and I didn't make a clan like Grubby did when he was in North America, I just the next day logged back into my Europe account when I could, and then I was there in my clan. So I don't know if that's fixed now or what they're going to do with that.
So right now, clans are uniquely region-based. You can only be in one at a time, but there's no proof that you are in one when you're on another server. So you got to choose what server you want to be in a clan on, which is why right now, if I want to keep my clan on NA, then I don't have a clan on Europe at all. The way it should work, of course, is that you have one clan global-wide and that everyone can talk with everyone. Because if the ladder is global, why wouldn't clans and channels be global? Duh. Ladder. I'm glad we have a reinvigorated ladder experience with a leveling system that's reminiscent of the legacy version. It has more charm than the 2022 ladder system, and by virtue of the patch itself coming out a few days ago, naturally there is a stimulation of activity that it has not got necessarily to do with the quality of it, but just the fact that there's new things. There's a lot of people on the ladder now, and that's fun. There are some problems that remain necessary to be fixed. The griefing and reporting system currently doesn't have a feedback system. So whether it works or not, I don't know. Maybe you guys don't know. There's a low incentive for it to be used and a low trust that it actually works. Even if it was the best reporting system.
I've been trying to keep tabs on it, and I think it's working for the most part. But there's still people saying their games are not being recorded. And I honestly believe them. It's one of those deals where, oh, you log out, log back in. Oh, there it is. The stats are there now. And then there's other times where it says, yeah, I think there's some weird circumstances if you leave a game too quickly or, whatnot. It might just not register, even though the game was obviously played, even if it was only for like 1 second. I don't know how it works. It still seems weird to me.
System in the world, it would be really difficult for you to find out whether it's working or not. So I don't have personal experience with it, but I did hear from my community sometimes that there can be a lot of leavers and AFKers that are ruining team games. And my suggestion is you should report them and gather data about whether those people are going to be suspended, banned, or whatever. But without a message that says your report has been actioned on, sometime down the line, could be a future login, could be a system message, could be a whisper, could be a pop-up. People aren't going to know that it's working, if it is, and therefore aren't going to be...
Well done, Grubby editor, for that one. That was a good little... It's just missing the noise of the chains, but otherwise that was a good little visual indicator using the brown wood backboard.
Likely to use it, and therefore it will be a self-fulfilling prophecy that it doesn't do anything because nobody does anything. So I think there's a lot to improve, but it seems Blizzard is committed to doing so in the short term and hopefully in the long term as well, so I'm very hopeful about that. Now let's move on to one of the larger topics as well. I do think all of this was large and important, and I think overall I'm very positive about it, though there's much room to improve. One of the more contentious issues is the graphics of Warcraft 3. And there's a lot to be said here. This is going to combine topics of the...
I mean, when I'm recording this, which is basically the day before, you're probably going to see it. I did a video talking about the Reforged. That I haven't seen the comments yet, but I can imagine they're incredibly spicy because I certainly did stir things up a bit.
Advertisement by Blizzard on the Warcraft Direct anniversary stream, as well as unspoken expectations from the community, as well as what Blizzard has said about it on their own website. So the Reforged graphics overall, this is the one that got designed by Lemon Sky, the outsourced studio, but was sanctioned and authorized and checked upon and feedbacked on by Blizzard Classic team back in...
See, that's the problem. Is on its own, it actually looks kind of cool, but it's still way too overly detailed. And you don't have any like proper units or terrain to put it up against to see the contrast. Not to mention, another thing that really hurts the Reforged graphics more than anything, I think, is the frame rate. It tanks like crazy. If for some reason you just had a magical world where you played Reforged graphics and you had 200 plus frame rate minimum, so there was actually not a sense of like discordance between like the feel of you playing the game and how smooth it was, that would help Reforged a lot, I think, personally. But I still think the look diverges way too much off the path. It's like trying to be Warcraft, but then it's just, you know, like it just goes too far, forks too far off, rather than sort of forks a little bit. It forks way off, or I'll do it with the other hand, more like that, then instead of like that, keeping on track.
You know, 2018, 2019, 2020.
Yeah, that's really different.
So the Lemon Sky art, or let's say the Reforged 2020 art, overall still very ugly in my opinion. Every now and then I read comments like, I don't know what's wrong with them, I really like them, and I know it's unreasonable for me to want to punch those people in the face. It's completely out of whack. It doesn't make sense, right? It's a complete overreaction. Why should I care? To each their own. I know this all intellectually, but it makes me mad. I think they're ugly. I think those Reforged graphics, they have been tinkered on, by the way, halfway this week, right? November 13th. The terrain has somewhat improved. Blight has greatly improved. Terrain and environment, for the most part, have improved the most. They're not perfect, but they're much better than before. The models and icons seem completely or largely untouched. And overall, you won't see me using much of those models, units, visual effects that have come with specifically the complete Reforged graphics toggle. Still ugly, won't use. There's still pretty bad FPS performance. You should imagine that you get about 1/3 of the FPS that you would get when you're using classic standard definition. Legacy graphics. There are micro stutters that I'm experiencing, like when I make a unit for the first time, when I start a game for the first time, when I make a barracks for the first time.
Not to mention that I had to play with Reforged graphics earlier because I was trying to test the Asgalar Pit Lord hero. And there was a moment where my base got attacked, and then I like went to go click on the minimap to get to my base. And then it's like, vroom, it goes all the way up because I click on it, and then it's like, whilst I've got the click on, it's holding it down. So it's like pushes my camera all the way up, so then I have to reposition back over my base. There's lots of stuff like that still happening in Reforged. It's just not really a smooth experience. Like I was talking about, like if there's no frame rate issues, everything, you click on something, it does it. Like you go somewhere, it does it. You build something, it builds it. It doesn't like stutter for a moment or something as the unit comes out.
And so those are all making my skill level worse. Audio-wise, I think the audio of Reforged is still bad. Incomprehensible voice line inclusions of laughable quality would be my summary of it. Again,
the acolyte that died, I noticed it. I wasn't trying to listen for it. I noticed it. There was an acolyte that harassed my base. I killed it. And instead of it doing the whoa noise that it typically does in Classic, it was like a ah. It's just like, what the...
Basically, in Legacy Warcraft 3, every single unit death sound was one death sound per one unit. There's a nice advantage for this. One death sound per one unit means that if you do not have visual confirmation that something is dying, then at the very least you have auditory confirmation that the unit is dying. Eventually you become aware of the iconic death sound per unit. But incomprehensibly for Reforged, some units still have one death sound, but some units now have 4 death sounds. And you can bet your white pasty behind on it that the 3 other death sounds that are not the original are of lower quality, are of laughable quality.
Ashes to ashes. Consume.
Yeah, barely hear it.
Consume. They will be cleansed by fire.
Are generally some kind of moan, groan, or splot, some splat, rather than the original. So the originals are not just nostalgic. I don't just reject the new ones out of nostalgia. I also reject the new ones out of a gameplay streamline point of view. Some units have multiple death sounds now. They never did. And it is unclear whether I lost a grunt or a peon because they both sound like like that. And then I also think they're just of low quality and laughably bad. So right now, both classic HD graphics and Reforged graphics completely use the audio that Reforged 2020 introduced. I think it's bad, and it's a reason for me not to want to use either one of those graphic settings because they're coupled. But good news, Blizzard is intending to add an audio toggle that allows you to choose which audio you want to use, Classic Legacy or Classic HD or Reforged, no matter which graphics you're using. So you could use new graphics, old audio, or if you want, the new audio with the old graphics. So this is coming, #soon. Now let's talk about the
Mix
Classic
it up.
HD graphics. These are the most important topic to talk about outside of, all the other stuff. Well, that makes sense.
Does that audio toggle work today? Is it in the game today? I don't know. I didn't notice that, if that's one of the things, because they did a patch, like I say, today for it, but I don't know if they put that in there. Yes, it's in the settings and it doesn't work, says Starbuck. Well, I guess we'll wait for the next patch on that one then.
If you take everything else and you talk about it, then the one thing that's left is the most important thing to talk about, not counting the rest. Wow, that's a great breakdown, Grubs. But yes, classic HD graphics, they are important to talk about. So basically, Blizzard said about this, available now, the patch overhauls the environments and lighting and revamps the user interface. In addition, we are up-resing all classic Warcraft 3 assets to HD. Now, you make a statement like that in the Anniversary Direct live stream on YouTube, and expectations are going to vary wildly. Those are just words, but there are also images that are used to advertise the new classic HD graphics. All right, let's take a little look at the advertising that is done for Warcraft Reforged classic HD graphic settings that are active right now as per 16 November 2024 Saturday. So on this website, Reforged is being advertised. Warcraft Reforged shaped the fate of Warcraft's world. Real-time strategy. Buy now. The battlefield awaits. Game features. Reforged visuals. Vivid recreations of every hero, unit, building, and environment. This can pertain to the Reforged graphics. But there is an image here, which is a marketing concept art still. They called it a still. There's an image here. It's very small. We're going to have a bigger example soon. But this image shows a gameplay state that has never been in the game in the past and will never be in the game in the future.
Aww.
This golden-hued boneyard with violet frostworm skeleton inside, this gaseous cloud around the abomination. None of this is real. This has been retouched in some way. I do not care for discussing the method too much. Some people are like, it's AI.
Warcraft 3 retouched. I was about to say something else. I'm not going to say it. You can use your own.
I don't have enough expertise to discuss what is AI and what is not. Some people are very convinced. To be honest, I don't really care about it. It's a large discussion.
But Blizzard have since gone to jail. Okay.
AI art is a very contentious topic. The way that I see it, I'll just talk about it really, really briefly. It is a new tool. You can treat it ethically and unethically. There's no ethical problem for a company to up-res their own graphics with an AI tool. It's not like they're unleashing it.
Show on the doll where Blizzard touched
on millions of images on the internet where there could be copyright infringements. They are just using it on their own images. They have full right to do so. It is a modern tool that you can use What is interesting is whether or not this is a real gameplay image or not. Being on this page, you would imagine this is a real gameplay image. You may zoom in and say, I really like how this looks. In fact, I saw...
It's because it's close enough. There's bits that if you are familiar with the game, or especially if you know the game for a long time, your eye sees it and you know it's not the same. It's somehow touched up, or it's an alternative version. It's basically like painted on. For example, one of the things that stood out to me, that might not necessarily stand out to too many people, is this explosion from the Siege engine. That is particularly fine-tuned. I've seen what the explosion from the Siege engine looks like. It's not that good. But that's the thing that looks like, oh, what if they did retouch it? So even the tiniest details like that could be really popping. That's what they've done with this image. Is they basically made stuff pop more. It's classic, but it pops.
Big streamer Asmongold look at this during his live stream review where he was reacting to it, just like I was simultaneously, but I looked at it later, and he said, this looks really good.
And so these are some of the new screenshots from the Warcraft 3 Reforged. I think it looks really good. This looks like what I imagined Warcraft 3 to look like when I played it in 2001.
But the problem is, this is not real. This is not in the game. I find that to be a problem. Then as we zoom out a bit again...
So are we going to arrest Asmongold for false advertising on Blizzard's behalf? Stay tuned.
We'll see a bigger image of this later. As we zoom out, races, media gallery. All right, there's a media gallery here. These images are real. This is real gameplay imagery, as is this, and this, and this. It's all real. This is just concept art, evidently. Some people said this was also AI done. I don't care. It looks cool. This looks cool. These are clearly not real gameplay images. And these 5 are. Allegedly, this media gallery also showed those same fake gameplay stills that were not really stills. But right now I don't see them. Interestingly, when you press View All...
No, it doesn't work.
It no longer leads to anywhere, whereas all the other buttons on the page do work. So I feel like the backlash that was received by people claiming false advertising has been seen, allegedly, and they have this...
But if that's true, why is the undead image still there? Because when I tried to check back on this stuff, that undead image is still there. It might even still be there now. Buy Warcraft 3. It's still there. It's still there. So why is that still there?
Disabled this button to not take you to this page anymore. The Blizzard Press Center. The Blizzard Press Center, I would imagine that it linked to this before. That you could click it, but you no longer can. But this page still exists. blizzard.gamepress.com/en/Warcraft 3 Reforged 2024. Warcraft 30th Anniversary Direct. Warcraft 3 Reforged 2.0. Fine. Warcraft 3 Reforged 2.0 race gameplay concepts.
That's a very important phrasing concept. If it said gameplay images, they could get in a lot more trouble for that. But it says concepts, but then they're still using the concepts as part of their advertising. So that is sketchy.
I'd be fine with that. Anyone would be fine with that. Showing gameplay concepts which do not reflect the current state of the game is fine because they're concepts. At first, I thought that's a problem too, but then I thought about it a bit more, and then I thought, hey, look at this, 9 years ago, Warcraft 3 alpha and beta screenshots. This is how Warcraft 3 used to look like. Then they made it more into the isometric RTS-based game that we know now, and they saved this type of work for...
I like how if no one's seen that image before, it's blowing their minds right now.
For a newer game, World of Warcraft, right? But this is how Warcraft 3 used to look like. There's Samuro, there's a Raider. Here are more screenshots from Warcraft 3, supposedly. I remember it had a far more RPG-focused look when I read about Warcraft 3 in the early 2000s in PC gameplay magazines. So none of this is, of course, illustrative of how Warcraft 3 would end up looking like, and that's fine because plans can change. They really were reflecting the inner sanctum of Blizzard's gameplay testing and demos, and they deliberately brought these screenshots out.
It's definitely got a Warhammer-ish vibe, but like it's supposed to be more World of Warcraft-ish, which I think, fun fact, World of Warcraft, originally, the first engine for it was Warcraft 3. They built World of Warcraft basically within a version of a Warcraft 3 editor. So that's kind of why you can sort of see some resemblances there.
Thinking it's going to look like that in the end. And then eventually it wouldn't. But this is fine because it's not currently being used to advertise how Warcraft 3 looks like. And as such,
it's so
there is
cool,
no
those
problem.
pictures,
Look at
though.
how Dreadlord used to look like. Cool, man. Yeah, so that's advertising that is being done asynchronously, or let's say not simultaneously with the present time. But while this, by the way, this title here used to be called Warcraft 3 Reforged Gameplay Stills.
Oh.
A still is a word for a photograph, which makes you think that it is actually a photo from the game. And that is a little problematic. And they changed this to concepts, which, cool, you know, again, this seems to allege.
Actually, sorry for shouting there. Just double checking my microphone isn't busted. Sometimes my microphone randomly changes its audio, but I think we're good.
That they agreed that it was problematic, the backlash that has been happening a bit. But when you look at the individual JPEGs, they are still called stills. So when we click them, what do we see? We see the imagery that has now gone around the world over websites like IGN and Rock, Paper, Scissors, etc., etc. Any YouTubers that looked at it, they see this imagery. It's still called a still. It has been already incorporated in marketing for the game, and I hope at best that this was an oversight and an overreaching by the marketing department that was not signed off by the spearheading of the Warcraft RTS.
And the undead picture is still there. But I think he might be right. I think there was a miscommunication here between the marketing and sort of pushing the game out with the team. And they don't necessarily... It could well be the case that the marketing team don't even freaking know what Warcraft 3 actually properly looks like. Haven't ever loaded up the game. They just take it, oh, this is what it is. Okay. Put that on the screen.
Team. That's the best case scenario. And I hope that when they see this video or when they perceive, this kind of backlash, that they agree that this is not a good way to market the game, because none of this is real. You go to the other images. I love those trees. This looks pretty good. Some people may say, why can't we have it like this? Some people may say, I don't see a difference, right? But this is not for you then. This critique is not understandable for you. And maybe my editor will splice in some imagery that shows a one-to-one with a similar image to this, where you can see how some units are really quite different. But if you know very...
The only thing that's being missed out there is on the left-hand side, he's not showing the shadows in the Warcraft 3 editor. That's something you can tick on and off, like the skybox and such. But you get the idea.
Very clearly. And then this one as well, here you see the bigger image of that boneyard. And so these are stills, and they do not do good advertising. All right, back to this page here. Let's talk a little bit about the price of the game. People are getting fooled a bit on the price of the game. Again, this could be an oversight. It could be a little bit on purpose. Yeah, if you go here on the warcraft3.blizzard.com URL and you press buy now, where does it lead you? It leads you immediately here. The first thing you see is Warcraft Remastered Battle Chest. But if you go back, it doesn't say that it's going to be taking you to a battle chest. It looks like I'm going to click on a buy link for Reforged. I click on it, I go to a battle chest page, and it says Warcraft Remastered 1, 2, and 3 are all included for 40 euros. So I might think that the price for Reforged is 40 euros. Obviously, this is not false advertising, but I do think that it shouldn't link here when you press buy now on a page that merely says Warcraft 3 Reforged. When you scroll down, you can see the individual games that are included, including Warcraft 1 Remastered, 2, Warcraft 3 Reforged 2.0, and the original Warcraft titles, and the Spoils of War as well. However, the Warcraft 3 Reforged itself on this page is not clickable. And because of that, I cannot see its individual price. It does have one, but it's not on this entire page. And I think that's at best confusing and at worst a little deceptive. Then when we go to another page, there is a Battle.net page, because right now we're also on the Battle.net page. I don't even know how I got here, but as you can see, I'm on view.shop.battle.net on Family Warcraft RTS. It says here at the top, Warcraft Relive the Legend. Return to Warcraft with this remastered collection. There's the battle chest. Here you do see the additional games that are components of this purchase of 39.99 euros, or if you're in US, it's going to be 39.99 US dollars. You can see the individual price for Warcraft 1, 10, 15 for 2, and 30 for Reforged, which together is actually 55, which makes 40 quite a deal. That's a €5 discount per game when you think about it. And I can click this here, and then I finally get to the page where you can see that Warcraft 3 Reforged
As Asmongold once said, you'd be losing money if you didn't buy it.
is in fact $29.99. But why do I need to navigate like this? I don't even remember how I navigated to find the solo game. Also, when we look at how the game is advertised on...
Just a quick note. Today embarked the Black Friday sale. So what was interesting is they didn't actually put this as part of it, as far as I understand. You've got sales on Diablo, even the StarCraft 2 campaign collection here. More Diablo, but if you click on the Warcraft 3, it's still the $34.99. That's British pounds. His one is like 39.99 euros. So I thought that was odd. They didn't take an opportunity to try to sell it. Maybe they backed off because, I don't know, why would they still not? It seems like a good opportunity to at least do a sale to get people on board, but maybe it's too recent, so they don't want to do a sale yet. Yeah.
The Battle.net launcher, this is my Battle.net launcher. The only way that I see in the shop that Warcraft is being advertised with price is again the Warcraft Remastered Battle Chest. So this is like a sales ticket.
It used to be £24.99 for me if it was like no Spoils of War edition. The deluxe Spoils of War edition or whatever was like $34.99. So it's basically, for me, if you look at this, it's the same price as the deluxe original Warcraft 3, but you get Warcraft 1 and 2 remastered now, so effectively, which this does actually include the Spoils of War, so you kind of look at it from that point of view. Technically, it's better than it was before because you're getting Warcraft 1 and 2 for that price, but it's still not on a special deal.
Technique to kind of show you the higher price point without making it very clear that you can get the game for 30 euros yourself. And I've already had a few community members that have bought the game thinking it's 40 euros, only being interested in Warcraft 3, but getting the 40 euro version anyway. So be careful, guys. So let's talk a little bit about what classic HD graphics actually are. Classic HD models, are they hand redrawn or are they AI upresed? Well, it looks like they're not entirely hand redrawn, despite Holly Longdale's testimony towards that in the Warcraft Anniversary Direct. Now, I can't 100% confirm this, but people seem pretty confident about it, and we're going to be able to look at some images where we can discuss whether we think it's AI up-res or not. So let's take a look at some of those images. Okay, so right here from Neo's video where he talks about the art, we can see a series of images where you see the original standard definition legacy boots of speed icon. You've got the Hive workshop icon where they tried their own up-res, which by the way was also done with AI. And then you see the patch 2.0 icon for boots of speed. The original icons were 64 by 64 pixels. The large icons are 512 by 512, the 2.0. So there are significantly more pixels, and by the way, there are a gargantuan amount of icons in the game. I just want to put a little pin here and say that your evaluation of whether or not it's justified to use AI mechanics to upscale art is probably going to come down to whether or not you think it's realistic and financially viable for Blizzard to hire many artists to work on thousands of different icons and models in the game 4 years after they last sold the game in a big marketing push. I think you can hope for very good. And if you don't like Blizzard, and if you don't like the new art, then you're probably going to take that position. You may also take the position where you say, I didn't expect much. By the way, before 13 November, everybody had no expectations. So whether or not you think it's going to be financially viable and sensible for them to redraw everything by hand is that's up to you. I should also say that even if Blizzard were to redraw everything with artists, how can you improve upon perfection? Classic SD. I think many of us hoped for and wanted a classic HD graphics that was very true to the original and is much more beautiful and modern and higher res, but all carefully handcrafted and hand-drawn. But do you trust Blizzard with that?
Yes.
In 2024 is the question. Like, even if they invested a lot of resources, they could still get it wrong. For instance, StarCraft 1 Remastered
Bobby's no longer in the company, so surely we can trust Blizzard now, right, guys?
had pretty good redrawing, but I don't like every StarCraft 1 Remastered HD asset more than the original. Particularly the mission briefing room, I think, attests to a much lower talent for art. When you look at how all the different portraits of story characters were redrawn, yes, they're all higher definition, but James Rayner and Mengsk and Duke, they all go from really iconic, weird-looking heads, potato head, blockhead, salt and pepper beard, and they go to these generic dudes in StarCraft 1 Remastered portraits that aren't as good artistically from an artistic talent point of view, in my opinion.
Doesn't feel
So
like it.
I don't even know if I would have want them to do classic HD, but I guess that's a different point of view. So let's talk a little bit about the specificities. This boots of speed clearly has some graphical artifacts. Where the boots of speed is touching the frame, you can see that the blending with the frame has spread out a line of the boots very underneath the frame. There is a clip here on the nose of the boot that looks like it does not belong. Where the lightning bolt facet touches the side panel here, there is also a spreading out. So I think this kind of thing very likely does prove that these were at least used with an enhancement of AI. Maybe some, all, or none of them have been gone over by hand. I've been hearing that there's definitive proof that there have been hand retouching on some models, that there's some things you can't do with AI, and I've heard it said that there's definitive proof that some things were, or all things were done with AI. So I can't prove it to you, but I can only say that it looks likely that this and many things have been. So here's another picture of a boots. This is if you take the 64 by 64 image, courtesy of Neo from Back to Warcraft, thank you. If you take it to make it as big as the 2.0 version. So at this point, you can see that it does look a lot more clear, but there's some artifacts. So I'm going to give you guys my opinion. I'm not saying you should
What's your
copy my
opinion?
opinion. I'm not saying that everything is done right. I'm saying I don't care. I don't care about those boots having some graphical artifacts. I just don't. And I'm not saying that
I care that he cares. But he doesn't care. So then I don't care. The point is, you don't notice it when you're playing Classic. It's the point. You know what I do notice is when I play the Reforged Classic HD icons and the healing salve and other icons have a weird kind of hue to them where they don't feel or pop as much, even though they technically have been adapted to somewhat pop. Or at least the AI's kind of done it, but not necessarily right. But when I'm playing Classic, I see the boost of speed icon. It looks like the boost of speed. It's nice if it looks really clean and clear. If it's like this big. Obviously, this isn't very well done because the gems aren't even properly represented. But just imagine this left image here is super clear, super resolution. That'd be lovely, but it's not really the biggest deal because at the moment in the game, it is about as big as that SD text the icon would look on your UI for the most part. So you wouldn't notice too much of that detail. It's only when I zoomed in and compared the original graphics to the Reforged adapted graphics on the command card for like movement or patrol, you could notice, or even the attack, there was a bit of blurriness to the original Warcraft 3. So you could just sharpen that up a little bit. It'd be nice. I care a little bit more. I wouldn't mind it, but it's not the biggest deal.
As an ambassador and fighter for you and for the community, I personally don't care. I think it looks better, the new one, and done. My expectations were very low from Blizzard, and my expectations for the graphical overhaul do not include needing to have new icons. If it looks enough similar as the original, that's great for me, because I never hated Classic SD. I love it. I don't need new graphic settings at all, right? It would have been nice, but I've given up on it. Grieving about it now that we don't have it, it's too late for me. I already grieved it over the last 4 years. I think our best chance of getting a full graphical overhaul for Classic HD was 2020. And that got fucked up so badly that it has become known over the world as one of the biggest failures in the gaming industry. It was very shameful to have your favorite game, go that route. I've grieved that already. It was not always easy, but I don't expect them to redo it again. I don't think it's financially realistic, viable, and I don't need them to do it. That's my opinion. And I know many people feel like me, and I know many people don't feel like me as well. Here is a free online upscale that I think Neo used in like 1 minute. So it is a lot cleaner, but I don't necessarily think it looks... Yeah, maybe it looks a little bit better, but it is also very glossy. So I'm not even sure I definitely like it better.
Looks a little bit Wellington boots rubbery, and the gems on the sort of boot still don't show like they do in the SD technically. They're not as green. I think it's nicer to have this clean shave look though. I like that. But it's still missing the fundamental issues of the classic, and therein lies the problem. If it's not going to keep the classic look, then just keep the classic look, and why bother changing it? So unless you can change it to look clean but exactly like classic, we're going to have a problem, right? And that's almost inevitably what's going to happen. So I can see where Grubby's coming from on this.
And then here is a Hive 2024 redo. Here I'm going to say that I do think that the Hive 2024 mostly looks better. All of this is also done with AI tools. It's not perfect. As you can see here at the top, it's very blurry. But the emblem of the lightning bolt looks a lot cleaner. It's very sharp and glossy and nice. You can see that the stud on the boot metal at the top here is basically disappeared. The original.
You know what? It's also a mess on your interpretation. If you look at this one on the right, I always felt like the boots were flat-footed, as in that is the same level all the way along. But the Hive indication seems to suggest that it's actually more like a high heel or a heel, and then there's a curvature towards the flat part of the foot, which then kind of messes with my sort of nostalgia for it and thinks, I don't like that look in particular. That doesn't look like the boots to me. But perhaps that is kind of what that is going on there. But my brain originally looked at this image way back when, and still to this day sees that as a flat foot. So anything that doesn't look like a flat foot looks wrong, right? That's just me being very specifically pedantic, but it is what it is, because I hate women. Well, that goes without saying.
Boots did have it. These are like studs. They're supposed to be emeralds, and they're not here. So none of them are better, in my opinion, than patch 2.0. I will say it could be better if you had a talented artist redoing all of them. But again, I don't think that's realistic. We can compare the way that StarCraft 1 was remastered. It would have been nice to have something like this, where the original grainy, blurry battlecruiser really got a truthful remake and a redrawn, most likely by hand, but again, I don't know, I can't prove it, a most likely redrawn by hand battlecruiser. If we had got this, that would have been lovely, but I feel the window for that was 2020. There's an overview of the Orcish race that shows what HD 2.0 could have looked like. Kenshin, who works on W3 Champions, who is also an artist himself, compiled many work from various mappers on Hive Workshop, open source stuff, and he compiled it all together to show what the orc race could look like with 2.0. I think this looks really nice. There's a lot of cool models here. It's of course not a done job. You would still need to manage animation, etc. But I think this looks really nice, this compilation. Here's orc. We've got undead here. Obviously not everything is perfect. The Infernal looks like he has a big chest.
He's a chunky boy.
A lot of blue glow. The Destroyer's wings are a bit too feathery, like a bird maybe. Shades are probably too blurry, but many of these units look really cool. I like how the Abomination looks like, the Garg. I like the Demolisher here, the Kodo Beast. We've got Human here with various
Human's
different
good.
units. It's all pretty close to
I like the cape of Kale Fass. He's got such a freaking cool silhouette, Kale Fass. Such a badass.
the original. And again, while much of this is nice, I don't personally need this, right? Kind of talked about that already. I should note that I previously believed that the upresing of the classic HD graphics was a mere unshackling of potential of the 2002 models. But I now think that maybe that's not 100% true. Maybe there was an upresing going on either by hand or with machine aid as well. Not everyone's happy with the results, but I think Classic HD looks pretty nice for the most part. But do send in your feedback how you feel about this kind of thing to Blizzard, as there may still be a chance that they iterate on one thing or another, especially the most egregious stuff that you could maybe point out. At the moment, I feel like Classic HD or Reforged graphic settings has me incur a small penalty in the performance of my play. You guys may not know, but I used to be a Warcraft 3 pro gamer. Now I'm washed up, but I still like playing well. And when I meet a strong opponent, I can tell when
I always thought he was a World of Warcraft streamer.
I'm playing on Classic HD that I'm not playing as well as I could be. I would rate it as about a 5 to 10% debuff to my skill. There's a little bit of, there's lower FPS, about a third of FPS that you would have on Classic Legacy graphic settings. There's a lower FPS, but the biggest, most egregious problem for me is the slight mouse lag that I'm feeling when I use those graphics. Until Blizzard further improves upon it, it means I'll probably end up using mostly the original Legacy graphics, which are Classic SD in the long term. But I will be showing Classic HD from time to time because I really like how the terrain looks like in Classic HD, and overall more skins are accessible for me to use as well in Classic HD. So once, if I can figure out the mouse lag problem and they can fix it, and once they offer an alternative to the audio where I can use Legacy audio, I'll be happy using them. Talking about Classic SD settings, the Legacy graphics, the model...
I was wondering if he was talking about the Reforged tiles that they recently did. Because Classic HD, I didn't notice really too much difference between the Classic HD and the original Classic HD terrain. So like the actual tile set. But I found that in the Reforged, they kind of refixed a bunch of the rocks to look a little bit more cartoonish and more polished. And that sort of settled into the overall look of maps a bit better. Especially there's more 2D-ish painted art. It's still a bit of, you know, it still stands out a little bit and your eyes see it, but I thought it's overall pretty good attempt and almost to the point where I could easily accept that. So,
and look are virtually unchanged. There's a small little change that I can detect in the UI where you have many units selected, right? You have all the peons selected next to each other in the UI at the bottom in the HUD. You can see that the glow around them, the shadowing, has all changed a bit, even in Classic SD. It's not a big deal, it's noticeable, and if I thought it's a really big deal, or if you guys thought it's a big deal, you should definitely let them know, but I actually kind of like how it looks, though I can tell that it's different. So overall, for the most part, it's all same old, and it's good. Brad Chan from Blizzard in the Warcraft Direct said, "When something is broken, you fix it. When something is wrong, you make it right. And if things aren't good enough, you make them better." I feel Blizzard are making things right. And if they aren't good enough yet, which I've illustrated is definitely true in places, we're now expecting Blizzard to make them better. So far, every night since the launch has had server-side updates to further improve things that were still shortcoming. And there's still a list of hundreds of things that can be improved, many of which have already been given feedback on. And I hope that they can fix as many, if not all of them, as possible. In conclusion, prior to 2.0, expectations for Blizzard were very, very low because they dropped the ball so hard. Realistically, it's a 22-year-old game that doesn't have new sold for content, not counting the battle chest inclusion. The game is, for legacy graphics, the same as it was before. We got a lot of new quality of life features. Despite low expectations, we got all of this for free. We got new skins, a new client look, a new ladder with improvements and so on. And while many things still need to be improved, I'm happy with what we got. Of course, not everything is as good as it could be, or you could even say should be. And keep in mind that this launch was on a marketing beat day, the anniversary direct, rather than being on a day that may have been most organic to the process and the development of the behind the scenes. I know that's not our problem, it's a them problem, but I'm just saying, not everything is as good as it could be. It's valid to be disappointed by that, and I am also disappointed by things that aren't working yet. I would counsel to myself, to others, to have a bit of patience, to allow them to prove themselves. And if they don't, and if many things remain broken and unfinished, just like they left it in 2020, though it is already in a better place than 2020, we have to call them out on it as well. I'm looking forward to the future, and I'm having a lot of fun re-immersing myself in Battle.net ladder play. Maybe I'll revisit the state of the game in about a month, and I'll update you guys all on the progress of the next 30 days. Thanks for watching, sub to the Grub, and I'll see you next time.
All right, there you have it. Great video. Thank you very much there, Grubby. Going over the latest patch, and as he was saying, they have been working on it, and there's more belief that they actually have a commitment to it, or at least a way to work with the community more than the flat out ignoring we were getting beforehand. Okay? Beforehand, back in 2020, even onwards from that point, it really felt like you were just talking to a brick wall. You were trying to get through to someone, but you just couldn't. But now, they are actually taking on board the feedback. They might even be watching some of these videos as well. So there's a bit more effort being put in on their part to understand what the community want. Because the patch today, for example, there was the issue where in the versus screen, if you hover over the name of a map, Market Square or Full Scale Assault, it doesn't show the image of that map, the picture. So the player might not know what it looks like. Do they turn it off? Do they turn it on? They don't even know what it looks like. Now, if you hover over it, it actually has like an actual picture of it as you're hovering over it. So that was a very quick little change they made. That works absolutely fine. I had no problems with it. So if you've got feedback, feel free to give it. Speaking of which, give Grubby a like and pop over. What you can do, that someone actually said, is you can always just click on the link that I'll put in my video description and then just put this video on play. And then watch it through that way. I don't know how YouTube does their things, whether they count it if it's being muted or not, but give it like the watch time, basically, is what I'm saying. So that way it goes through. Yeah, the latest patch came through at midnight. It was strange, wasn't it? Because I think I checked the forums and it was something like 11 hours ago or something, and this was a bit earlier today. So I was like, what time was that? So when did they do that? They got it through, though, and they've been making changes. So it's good to see. I think overall, patch 2.0 is definitely a boost for what was essentially a very neglected Warcraft 3 community. And it does feel like we could get a little bit more. Things like the skins are huge. Bear in mind, that's never been in the game ever before at any point, the melee games, where you could change your skin. Although I do want more commitment to making that system work better, and I can always do a video on that at some point in the future. So yep, thank you for watching, have a good day, like the video, subscribe like numero 0, come over to twitch.tv/witty and subscribe as well.
Huge
Change. Thank you.